Welcome to Aussie
and the Scotsman.
Today we're talking about Apocolypse Now.
I know you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I know you don't want to talk about the intro bit, but the way you say talking about it just doesn't flow naturally.
Well, it's not natural for me because I normally say today we're talking, but.
Anyway, that's for off air, as we've been told. Listen, delighted to welcome back our friend Simon to the podcast. Welcome back, Simon.
Thank you very much. It's been a minute.
It's literally been a minute. If you haven't listened, Simon was joining us for the Movie Network, which is actually just uploaded as well this week. So check that one out. Now, this is an exciting week, but before we get into Apocolypse Now, has anybody got anything to talk about? How was your week, Rowan?
Yeah, look, a very standard week, other than I saw a very entertaining thing when I landed at Sydney Airport. So I get off the plane, there's thousands of people queue up for the Uber. I'm trying to go to my hotel. I just go straight to the taxi because it's too complicated to go through the Uber and what was going on. And as you know, they wait outside the airport. The cabs get one go for their ride, okay, to set it up. So they might wait 2 hours and then they come in. But you must take the person wherever they request. So you can wait 2 hours and then have a 1 minute trip.
Yes,
you wait 2 hours and they can get a 100-kilometre trip. There we are. You get told, you stand behind 7, you stand behind 8. I'm getting there, Robbie. I'm building the story.
I never said a word.
And I'm watching this guy, and all of a sudden, there's an almighty fight starts because for what we worked out later, it was the trip after the taxi driver had waited 2 hours was 100 yards up the road.
And a physical fight or a verbal fight?
It didn't become physical. It was very close. They were held back. Okay, so the cab driver got out of the car and I'm watching it and you can read his lips. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I wait, motioning to his phone. He's waited 2 hours and this guy gets his camera, this big, Anglo-Saxon fella, and he's filming. So you won't take me. By law, you must take me. He's filming. And he didn't care that he was getting filmed, right? And he just refused. He wouldn't do it.
So what happened?
Well, in the end, they just shuffled the guy off into the next cab. And he just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there. And finally, they put him in another cab. But for 5 minutes, it was on, right? You had the attendant from the airport. You had the driver. You had the customer.
I do feel for them.
Who for?
For the taxi driver. I mean...
But isn't that just course of business unlucky?
Yes, but I still feel for him. I understand both points of view, actually.
Yeah.
I think
who's right and wrong here?
It's one of those things that's just very, very difficult to resolve. It's not fair that the taxis had to wait for so long. It's not fair that the customer doesn't get taken straight away. It's not fair that the airport staff has to be there and involved in an altercation. And yeah, you could say, look, it's just part of business, but you can understand his point of view too, or her point of view as well. And I just think, what's the solution? The solution is, I think the solution is maybe find a taxi driver that's going to be a little bit less, aggro about it, and put him in and give him some preference the next time the taxi driver comes around to get to the front of the queue again.
Maybe you could have your short-term drives and long-term. You could have 2 lanes, things like that. You could have a short-term lane, a long-term trip. I certainly was probably on the side of the customer because at the end of the day, you queue up, you get in. That's the role of the taxi driver. You don't get to choose. You go to a restaurant and you can order, you can take the table and you say, I'm just going to have a Coke. You can sit there for 3 hours. You don't get forced on what you've got to have.
You also don't know what's happening in that taxi driver's life. It could have been a culmination. This is the end of a culmination of shit that just happened in his day. It comes into it. Look, it's a tricky one. Yeah.
It's true. And it reminds me of a story actually that I had about long drives.
Oh, yeah.
And also, who knows what the hell's happened during the day. So back when I was younger and I had lots of hair, my mate Josh, big shout out to Joshy, and I hitchhiked across the Nullarbor and to get to Melbourne. Well, we didn't start off hitchhiking. Our car blew up on the border of South Australia and Western Australia, and so the car ended up getting towed to Adelaide, and we ended up hitching a ride with a lovely guy in a Kingswood who was going to...
Were you scared at all with that?
There was one time on the way back that we were scared. We had a screwdriver pulled onto our throat. But anyway, It's a story for a different day.
Sure.
Next time.
How many times are you coming on?
That was an invite back.
I was going to invite yourself back on the podcast.
So this story is great because we happened to spend the night in Adelaide on the way back, waiting for actually it was on the way there before we got a ride from Adelaide to Melbourne. And we'd organised with another friend of ours, Brett, who was working in a street press magazine to get us into this nightclub. And we were going to go and do a review of this nightclub. And there we are. We've got nothing but our crossing the Nullarbor clothes. I've got, a pair of shorts and some
You're not looking your
blood-stained
best.
boots. Not looking the best, because all of our stuff's going to Melbourne.
Sure.
Because we're going to be there for a month for a holiday. Anyway, and we caught a cab to get to this nightclub. And it wasn't very far away, but we get in the cab driver, and the cab driver looks really flustered. And, I'm the sort of person I like having a conversation. I sit in the front seat and I have a conversation with someone. And anyway, what's going on? And he says, oh, fuck, I've just had this really full-on night. And we're like, what happened? And he goes, oh, well, I had this big trip. We went out to the Adelaide Hills. It's about an hour away or whatever. And there was these two ladies, and, they were kind of relatively scantily clad ladies. But anyway, we went out there and dropped them off. And as I dropped them off, they do a runner. So, jumped out of the cab. Right? Anyway, and I was like, oh, that's pretty shit. And he says, yeah. And I said, oh, is that it? And he says, oh, no, well, actually, I chased after them. And I was like, oh, yeah. He says, yeah, I keep a bullwhip, right? Like
a Harrison Ford,
like
Indiana
a Harrison
Jones.
Ford bullwhip, right? I keep a bullwhip under my front seat, right? And if people do a runner, I said, you must be quite handy with it to be able, I am. He runs after them and he uses his bullwhip to trip them up, right? Like, seriously, like you see in Indiana
one
Jones.
way to keep a lady.
Yellowstone territory.
I'm like, oh wait, this is a pretty full on guy and a pretty interesting. Anyway, so he said, so I said, oh, what, did you catch him? He says, yeah, I went after them and I got one of them. And I was like, okay. And he says, yeah. And then she turns around and she bites me.
Jesus.
And I'm like, oh, gosh.
What, an arm, a leg?
I think it was
Whatever.
Whatever. It was
Likes details
on the
for
arm.
road.
Classic.
Okay.
It was on the arm, and I think it was on the arm. It doesn't matter. Anyway, and I said, oh, and did you get the money? He said, no, she got away after he bitten. And I was like, oh shit. He says, yeah, that's not the worst of it. And I said, what? It gets worse? And he says, yeah. He says, I went down to the cop station to tell them about these girls, and the lady or the cop that's at the station says, oh yeah, we know these girls. They do this quite often. Oh, and anyway, so it takes us, and then as he's leaving, they says, "Oh, by the way, you might want to go and get yourself checked out.
And get yourself a little rabies shot."
Lovely.
So anyway, we were his next fare.
Okay,
and,
so it kind of ties into the previous story, which is you don't know what happened in someone else's day or the day before.
you don't know exactly.
The running off part reminded me of a story when I travelled around here and stayed with you guys in Perth, and I went up to Cairns, and in Cairns I did pedicabbing. Pedicabbing is these bikes with the basket at the back, and you ride around. I did that for a couple of months, and one time I did this 40-minute journey. I think two girls as well, maybe it was a guy, I can't remember, and they just ran off, jumped a fence into a park and ran off, and I also chased them till I got to the fence, and then I'm like, do I not? And I didn't. I just came back, but I was pissed off.
Yeah.
So it's not nice when it happens, is it?
Yeah, it's funny. You make fun of taxi drivers. When I did the promo of Taxi Driver, you said it's not. I said De Niro trained for 6 months to be a taxi driver, and you said, how hard is it to be a taxi driver? And now look at the challenges of the taxi driver. You got the impatient customer at the Sydney airport. You're crossing the Nullarbor plains. Shit happens, mate.
Not so much anymore. In the olden days, in the good old days, it was hard to be a taxi driver because you had to memorize, particularly in London. That was part of the test. Memorize routes. Alternative routes, know every street. You weren't allowed to look at your Glasways or your London ways.
Or the Melways.
Or the Melways. You had to know where you were going. Mm-hmm. Old school service.
Mm-hmm. You have to put up with people throwing up in your cab and,
Yeah, well, there was no disruptor back then. There wasn't an Uber. So that maybe they didn't have to fight for the business.
No, mate, but when you're a London taxi driver, mate, they love to have a bit of chat. A little bit of chat in the back, mate. I'm like,
why weren't they allowed to look at the Melways?
Because that was the test to get your licence to be a taxi driver. Yeah, it was part of the London test.
Die Hard. When he's getting the limo from the airport to the Nakatomi Plaza.
Oh, what's his name?
And the driver says, you like a bit of chit chat, or anyway, they end up becoming friends because they end up having this chit chat on the way, right? Because Bruce Willis is initially very reticent about chatting to him, and then eventually.
Can you be bothered chatting? I can't.
He says one terrible line in that film though. The limo driver, at the end when the teddy bear's sitting there, and he turns and goes, "Shut up" to the teddy bear. Yeah, it's corny.
It's corny, but it's a corny film. It's great. We love it.
Are you chatters and taxi drivers, which was where I was heading? Because
I'd be more yes than no. Yeah,
because you get the button you can swipe in an Uber. I think.
Yeah,
or maybe it's not even there.
You can say not interested in chit chat.
Yeah,
I'm not very good chit chatter. We talked about it before. My coins get depleted and blah, blah, blah. In fact, Simon is the guy who I had that conversation with at your 50th birthday party in Perth. It was a story that changed my life because I just figured, and we've talked about this many
Thanks for the
times
invite,
before,
by the way. It must be in the mail.
Awkward, a little bit awkward.
That's also come up on the podcast. You threw that up there. Awkward. You said you got back from Simon's 50th.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, mine must have got here snail mail.
So we had in that chat
You're welcome to my 60th.
a conversation.
Thank you.
If we're still mates,
Yeah.
Who you got to pick one?
What do you mean? I'm going to be mates with him. We're going to be overthrown Faye Dunaway style. He's going to take over the show.
I have no
Oh, I
designs.
see. Okay.
Anyway.
You're referencing,
Sorry, you're not quick enough to get
You're
that.
referencing network that we've done.
Social battery.
Anyways, we don't need to talk about this. Do you want to talk about social
Yeah,
batteries?
I'm fine.
Go
Well,
on.
it was great. This is the way he explained it because I often get tired or not tired. Like I've had enough. Okay, at a party for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, but I just feel drained and exhausted, and generally just kind of ghost and leave. And he explained to me, well, it's your social battery. And what's happening is that you're having all these conversations, and you're not an introvert or an extrovert, you're an ambivert. I am an ambivert. And what's happening is your social battery is being drained. Just take yourself away to a cupboard or a room or go outside for 10 minutes. Just breathe and just recharge that social battery of yours, and you'll feel better. And you like to use the 5 coin analogy. And I've tried it, and it really works. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's actually just about being hyper aware about when your battery is getting drained. I find some people drain it instantly.
Yeah.
Some people it takes a long time to drain. Some people don't drain it at all. Right. So I could be in this sort of a social setting, right, where it's, you know, we're talking about some interesting stuff, and my battery won't get drained at all.
Yeah.
But I could be in a different situation, and it might take no time at all. And then if you're hyper aware of it and you know, then you can spend as long as you need to out of it or as little as you need to out of it.
I think that's the thing, being hyper aware of what you are. And there's some people that
But I asked
suck
you, do you
the
remember the
life
other week?
out of a room, and it just sucks the energy out of me. And what I would just need to do is probably now just take more breaks.
Just take more breaks.
Remember we had a meeting. We have a preparation meeting.
Do you actually meet? I know that you talk about meetings.
No,
but
we
you
do.
You do actually.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Finally.
It was a gripe that Rob had for
It's
a while
always a
about
gripe
not,
that he had, but
not being-
we met, and he seemed shitty the whole meeting. And then the very next time we came together in the studio, I said to him,
Can I ask you something?
have I upset you? All right? Have I done something wrong? He says, what? I said, the other day you finished the meeting, and I was like, okay. I mean, we're supposed to be mates, and he finished like he'd just left the funeral parlour, right? And he said, no, I was just exhausted. So in my head, I mean, I'm polar opposite to him, right? I'm yet to run out of battery in 51 years. And Rob's like, yeah, I'm ready to, I don't know, I could sleep for a month.
When
So
you're a classic extrovert.
I am the classic
Yeah,
extrovert.
you are. Yeah. You recharged around others, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
It's amazing. I can't understand it.
Yeah, I can't either, but it actually only came to me about 7 or 8 years ago. A good friend of mine, Jess, explained to me that if you're being an introvert, because there's always been this kind of stigma about introversion and extroversion. You know, like you could love being in a social context as an introvert, right? But still be an introvert. You can still be very social. It's just that when you've had enough, you need to have enough. You need to recharge. That's all it is.
And I hate it when an extrovert turns around and goes, "Oh, you're an introvert. You're so quiet." It's like, fuck off. You talk too much. You know, it's not about me being an introvert.
Yeah. And you can be the life of a party for however long it is that you can be the life of a party, and it's no drama at all.
I remember that 1 hour you were good for in 2018.
6 till 9.
Yes.
In the morning. Is my best time. Okay, well there we go. So that's why I went about talking in a taxi.
Just on that really quickly, right? A couple of Sundays ago, I had the most extraordinarily busy day, and you would think you would get socially and tired, but by the end I was still excited. I still wanted more. I played golf with 3 mates. I then went to another event with another couple of mates, and then a basketball coached, and the 2 others turn up there. Like I had, if you wanted to say you saw your friends on the weekend, I'd seen everyone I've ever met in my life, and I still got to dinner, and I still thought,
I mean, you did have 3 semi-exciting things going on. Like it was a competition. I think we were moderating a movie.
yeah. Then I went to basketball, and there's Basil, and then there was,
that's different. You're in an environment where your adrenaline is pumping for whatever reason. You're not at a party or a function where you have to kind of chit chat with people and the small talk and move from person to person, or you're sitting at a table, you know, with people and you're to chat for 4 hours. I'm not good at that.
And it, like, in certain situations, you have to stay energized, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I'm in court all day and I'm making submissions to a judge, I have to be energized all day. And I might be just because I've got stuff kicking in, right? Adrenaline, right? It might be, you know, that sort of stuff. But at the end of it, you'd be completely exhausted, right? Because you just...
Oh, mentally, you can be mentally drained.
mentally drained, yeah.
I look at it in a way like I've just got to act. Certain situations, I used to do this networking group every week for 10 years. I would go for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I would just network with 20 or 30 people. Then we'd go around the room and you'd stand up and you'd talk. And you'd be like, fuck, here we go again. And as you walk into the room, it's right, okay, heads up, you know, tits and teeth kind of thing, big smile, let's go, boom, and you're on. And then you kind of just... what is the word? You act it. You play the part. Yeah. So he would do that. Okay.
Nothing to do with today's film.
Nothing to do.
Off air, I want to ask you about The Correspondent. You've listened to every show. I'd love your opinion. Did you listen to that show?
Listen to The Correspondent. You mean about Rob's?
Yeah. That was the session. That was the first session.
Why do you talk about it?
What was your take on that?
About what?
Did you know that about his social anxiety and that he's
so I didn't know that about his social anxiety.
Like that was as genuine as it got.
And I found that conversation compelling and heart.
That's why he's a nice guy. Other
I
mates
found it compelling and
laughed at
heart wrenching. And I totally felt for your the moment that we asked the question, but I was you build these things get built up in your mind to be bigger than they are, and that moment was going to be in your mind for a long time.
But no one else would give it a second thought.
And so I if those things happen to me, I focus on the fact that it's not important enough for anyone else to give a shit about it for too long. Why should I?
And that's what I told my kids when we're driving. They're so self-conscious about driving and making a mistake. And I said, no one's interested in you. No one's watching you. Everyone is worrying about their own thing. Yeah. And the reason I think it affected me so badly in The Correspondent is because it re-triggered all the shit from childhood. Just brought it all up over these 2 days. And we just happened to do the podcast, and it was very cathartic speaking about it. And if it happened again, I probably wouldn't react the same way, because it's now happened and I've kind of
you don't know that. You don't know whether it'll trigger
I still
again.
get embarrassed. Even when you started talking about it, I could feel that kind of little rush of blood about to go to my head to start getting a little bit embarrassed.
Correspondent.
Can I say this is probably the closest we've come to
Beetlejuice. It's taken 126 shows for you to make me laugh.
This is probably the closest we've come to a theme that might be kind of Apocalypse Now adjacent, which is trauma.
We should. Oh, we are going to do a
trauma.
Film.
Trauma, holy shit.
Thank you. Brought us back into line.
Okay,
tell us about a couple. I can't. Can you pronounce it quickly?
Francis Ford Coppola.
I say Apocalypse. I get the word wrong.
Tell them about the movie Banshees of Inisherin.
No, come on.
Banshees of Inisherin. Okay, here we go. Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Apocalypse Now stars Martin Sheen as Captain Benjamin Willard, a burned-out American officer sent on a secret mission during the Vietnam War to locate and assassinate Colonel Walter Kurtz, played by Marlon Brando, a once respected commander who has gone completely rogue in the Cambodian jungle. Travelling upriver with a small crew, including Laurence Fishburne as the teenage gunner Clean, Frederic Forrest as the jittery chef, and Albert Hall as the stoic skipper, Willard witnesses the war's escalating insanity. By the time Willard reaches Kurtz's compound, a nightmare world captured by Dennis Hopper's manic photojournalist, the film becomes a hypnotic descent into moral chaos. Both Willard and the audience are left to confront the same haunting question. In a war this mad, who is truly sane? Apocalypse Now, Simon, you wanted to discuss it. I'm pleased you did, because I know the Aussie hasn't seen it. What did you think of it, and why bring it to us?
Spoiler alert, it's one of my 5-star films.
Hang on, there you go. And thanks for listening. we don't
Until next time.
It's not how it works, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but my social battery is done. So
He's hit the wall.
No, one of my 5-star films. I've got 17 5-star films, and this is one of them.
We might have a show of Simon Star.
This is a very important film in the history of film in American film anyway. It's one of the examples of the new Hollywood filmmakers from the 70s, and it's a brilliant film to watch, and completely different to the other film that we've talked about recently, Network, but there is a similarity. Maybe we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
So yeah, loved it. Hope you enjoyed it. You can ask Rowan what he thinks, or can I ask him?
I'd love you to ask him.
Rowan, what did you think?
Thanks, Simon. First of all, I felt a lot of pressure to watch this film because it gets dropped a lot. So a shout out to a guy I work with, Peter. I know you're listening. I told him we're going to do Apocolypse Now this week, and he's been...
Peter!
Yeah, Peter's written a few times. He loves it. He loves the show.
And thanks for your support, Peter.
Yeah, no,
you're the one person that listens.
Yeah, no,
two. Simon listens to.
He's a good fella. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I can see why you liked it because there's a lot of things to talk about. My rating is going to be nowhere near as high as yours, and that is because the theme of the film, war movies, don't land on me like they do others. But I can appreciate, and this is where 150 films have come in, some of the artistry that I'm happy to talk about with this film, whether it's the music, the helicopters, certain scenes.
Ask if you watched it on your phone again or laptop. That's important.
Yeah, it is quite important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your phone?
iPhone 15, brother, never lets me down.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking. I'll tell you what I thought of it. So
that could be a new segment. Don't ask Rob, but he'll give it anyway.
Every time I think about watching this film, I kind of dread it.
Had you watched it before?
A few times.
Okay.
I dread it because I know how heavy it is, and it is a disturbing film to get through. But when I turn it on, I cannot take my eyes off it. It is a visual feast. It is up there as well with probably my top 5 movies.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Maybe top 10. But it's up there as one of the best pieces of filmmaking I think I've ever seen. Every scene has... I'm going to say it's like a brain explosion. That's what I described India like. This is the same thing. I was just watching it this time. You always watch it slightly differently every time you watch it. So I thoroughly loved it.
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful.
I want to ask you a question. You said, Rowan, you said that you're not a big fan of war films, but you loved Hacksaw Ridge.
I loved Hacksaw Ridge,
And you've seen Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
And Dunkirk? Have you seen Dunkirk?
I have not. But what are the two themes in Private Ryan and Hacksaw Ridge compared to...
Have you seen Platoon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Mad on Platoon.
Not Mad on Platoon. Okay, so...
When it's blood and guts...
Yeah.
And the shooting,
yeah,
it just water off a duck's back. Hacksaw Ridge had a beautiful theme about this guy that didn't want to carry the gun that was doing superhuman acts. And Private Ryan wasn't about the bullets. It was the moral question of 8 trying to save 1.
So you like a hero and a moral, kind of drive. Yeah.
Right.
So
because you know what I focus on, right?
Yeah. So this film is a big anti-war film, obviously. And it's not about this is far more. It's funny that you wouldn't like this. This is a far more realistic depiction of war.
Probably.
And you're gonna far more realistic than the occasional heroes that you have that go out and do these things, which are always definitely worth making movies about. But most people who experienced the Vietnam War or World War II weren't involved in heroic escapades or
100%.
And this depicts the horror of war, right? This
is much more true to life than Rambo going through as a war veteran. Yes, right? I get that.
And the moral kind of the moral haze, right, of right and wrong and truth and fiction than most other war films. So I kind of think that I would have thought this would have been within your wheelhouse.
It's also the kind of film that I don't think you should watch on your phone, but it needs to be watched a couple of times, like The Godfather, because the first time, because there is so much to take in, and there's so many scenes and acts to it that you can't get it all in the first showing.
You can't watch it on your phone.
No.
You shouldn't be watching any films on your phone.
It's time, gents.
But you've got an iPad.
Yeah.
I'd lend it to my son for the week. He wasn't around.
You've got to get hold of it. Even your iPad. It's
no good.
Back in the day, they shot film on 32mm or 16mm, right? And there are certain films that you just need to see on a big screen. Their scale and intensity, and this one in particular. I mean, just the scale of the score. I mean, we talked about Network not having any score, right? The scale of the score in this, right? That you know that there's a helicopter scene when they come in.
That's the best scene.
No, well, actually, I don't. I think there are better scenes, but we'll talk about the scenes, I'm sure, in a moment. But just the scale and the grandeur of it needs a grand scale.
Well, that's like Gladiator and Braveheart. These are epic films. You can't watch the Titanic, the boat, to get the gravitas and the size of the boat.
Why did I'm going to use the word insist, but why did I insist that we watch F1 at IMAX?
Well, it was made for IMAX.
Correct.
Was this made for?
Yeah, these are made for big screen.
Made for big screens.
They didn't have streaming and iPhones in 1979. This was made for a big screen.
And this has been redone.
But just remember what I value, right? So I value very different things to you guys. So I sit there and I appreciate it, but I don't love it.
But I wonder if you were to watch that in IMAX and you are just surrounded by this, or the Sphere in Las Vegas, right? And you're just immersed in this new world.
Maybe. I don't know.
You might still hate the themes and not enjoy the blood and the guts, but my God, you'd be like, wow, I'm in a new world here. This is horrific. This is stirring me in a different way.
Why do you watch films?
To be entertained.
Okay, all right. So this film, and what entertains you? Oh, sorry,
what entertains you.
I know what entertains you, but this film, you've got to admit that there are aspects to it that would be kind of entertaining and mind-blowing if you were to have it in a proper experience.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't have the luxury of doing it.
Okay, but if you
Right,
watch
we're
films...
looking at 3 screens here. I don't have time to sit and watch. I have to utilise every minute.
Okay.
So there's a practicality to it as well.
Okay, all right.
I think that's fair.
I'm sure the scene when there's 15 helicopters and you've got that epic spread.
Well, one day when you're not doing it for a podcast and you've got some time, and they're showing it at a, I don't know if you guys have Monday doubles where they, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it comes out from time to time.
Yeah.
This is one of those films that you should go and watch in the big screen because it is
deserves it.
good.
It deserves it. Francis Ford Coppola, I heard you'd watched it on your phone, you'd have a heart attack.
I want to ask you something about the credits. Okay, so
the end credits.
No, the opening credits, right? So if you IMDb this film, the first name up is Brando, right? Mm-hmm. And when he comes up on the screen, it's Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. He's not in the film for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. The star of the film is Martin Sheen. He's third, right? So it's Marlon Brando, then Duvall, then Martin Sheen.
Because Marlon Brando was the biggest name in film at the time.
So it's the biggest name in film, right? Because he was...
It's the same today. It's the same now.
No, we've had this discussion.
Mostly it is, but sometimes...
It should be the star of the film.
Sometimes they do cast in order of appearance. Sometimes they do cast in order of...
Correct.
In order of...
billing.
Star rating. Sometimes they do cast in order of most screen time, right? So
yes, the star of the show. Yeah. The most common one these days is order of appearance. I think it's the safest way to do it.
No, I think the most common one now is the
star.
The length of time they're in the film.
Also,
so if you're the main stars.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise is always going to be billed number one, right? I mean, he...
Unless you're in Tropic Thunder, he was last because it was a special guest star. But
you're getting me on a technicality.
And introducing.
What's that?
There could be there's also an introducing. They start with.
That's another way they. It just bothered me when I'm thinking Marlon Brando wasn't even in it.
I'm pretty sure Quentin Tarantino doesn't have it in terms of star billing.
Well, he always does, and Samuel Jackson. He seems to I reckon he's asked. You watch how many films it says and starring Samuel Jackson's always last.
Yeah, because they're usually
cameos.
They usually don't have the main role.
Yeah.
What do we think of Martin Sheen? I'll start, and I'm going to start in the.
Hang on. Before we talk cast,
no, sorry, it wasn't about cast. I was going to talk about the bedroom scene, the first scene.
Are we going to talk about what the story's about? No, I mean you did. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we can. Yeah, do you want to give a summary of that and then take us into the bedroom?
Well, I think this movie. I think this movie is a road movie at its heart. Right?
It's a road movie. Yep.
It's a road movie on the water. It's a journey.
Yep.
It's a journey from one place to another to get somewhere, right? And it's all about what happens along the way on the destination. But the whole film is about building in an anticipation of what is going to happen when you get to the destination.
Well, you are intrigued, right? Because he's looking at the pictures on the boat, Martin Sheen, over and over. He's wondering, what's he going to be like? What's he going to say? What's he going to be?
That's right. And, there's lots and lots of classic road movies where you're interested to know what goes along on the way and what's going to happen. Sometimes you're always thinking about the destination, and sometimes you forget completely about the destination, and it's all about the journey. And I think this is one of those films where both those things happen, where every time you get back, they're back on the boat, for example, you're like, we're getting closer to the denouement, to the end of it, right?
Yep.
We're getting closer and closer, and then you go, but hang on a minute, I want to stay here for a while, right?
Yes.
I want to stay with Captain Kilgore and his surfing team, or what the fuck's going to happen when we've just seen this boat?
It was like little pockets of movies, wasn't it?
It was, and we'll probably talk about that. It's probably a function of the way that it was shot and the budget and the fact that there wasn't the same script. It wasn't a script that was written out. There was a lot of improvisation. There was a lot of things that happened to cut the production. They had to come back, and there was all sorts of stuff. And so I think this is a road movie at its heart.
Yep.
And I think it's really all about evoking a feeling rather than like a solid narrative film.
Sure.
So Network was a narrative film, right? This is more about what's the feeling you get, and you just come out of it.
It's trying to be a little bit shocking in a way. I do think it was a little bit self-indulgent, and we'll talk about the making of it. You talked about you didn't see Brando for 2 hours, okay? And then shortly after that, you talked about the build-up of this character, this cult leader that we hear about, okay? Now, as we've talked about before, when you don't see the villain, it is often more troubling. We have talked about it with Jewel.
No.
We've talked about it with Jaws. You don't see is it the protagonist, the right word? You don't see him. All you get this feeling of, what is this guy going to look like?
How's he going to... I agree with you, but I was... Just in terms of the billing is what I was talking.
But I thought that's...
But no, I thought that was cleverly done.
Are you waiting to see Brando, the whole film?
Yes, of course.
Okay, and so
tell me how you feel. Clever, yes.
Tell me how you feel when the first time you see Brando, you don't see his face.
No.
Right? And
you're frustrated.
You don't even see his face for the first
another 10 minutes. Yeah, no, right? It was quite a few minutes.
Whatever, however, a minute is a long time in film, so it might be, you might feel like 10 minutes.
Yes.
But, right? How you feel?
I was frustrated. I'm like, oh my God, they've dragged it out so long. They've still got me holding. So they had my full attention. Don't get me wrong. They had my full attention.
Yeah.
I wanted to see him.
And he confused?
No, I wasn't confused. At that point, it was quite deliberate.
Okay, you knew it was quite deliberate.
100%. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. We're looking at the pictures and Charlie Sheen's father's, what's his name? Martin Sheen. He's narrating in his head. We're waiting. Then finally get to him and they've put him in the dark. I thought, Jesus Christ, they're dragging
this conversation's telling me that you've not actually been immersed in the film, because you're actually, looking at your watch and you're wondering when you're going to see this and that. This is a film where you're supposed to actually forget,
put your phone down,
about all of that, and you're just supposed to let it wash over you and go, like, what is this? Like, what is it? What the fuck's going on? Because that's what he wants you to feel. Sheen, who's this kind of, assassin, for hire by the American government, who's fed about a bunch of lies by them, and you don't never really know why they want Brando dead, Colonel Kurtz dead.
Yeah.
He's this dead-eye assassin who's come in for this special mission. Like, he looks confused and scared at times. And
he even says it. He even says, would they want me to kill him if they knew what I saw?
And all of it. And so that's what he wants you to feel throughout this movie. And if you're looking at this going, when's we going to get to this and that, then it's obviously just missing the mark in terms of what he's trying to do.
Could I ask quickly?
I disagree, but you have your opinion. It's okay.
But I think that's, again, back to the phone. That's what's happening. Like, you're not immersed in it.
I'm immersed enough, mate. In my opinion, I was immersed enough. I was engaged in the film. I'm watching the film. But when it became so deliberate, then I started.
Then you started.
But the only way to test that is for us to go to wherever it plays next and to watch it again and see actually if you felt differently. That's really the only way to test anything.
Just on a big screen TV.
Not such a big deal, but anyway.
But I think it is. We review movies. You can only get into the movie if you watch it properly.
I was into the film.
Oh wait, so you've watched this for the first time. I'm fascinated to know that one of the opening scenes, not the opening, but one of the first scenes is
The
Captain
bedroom scene.
Willard in the bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking when you're watching that film? What are you feeling?
I thought it was horribly sad. What do you call it? Post-traumatic syndrome of war and
PTSD.
yeah, and all of that. Yeah, no, it was heartache for him, right?
Yeah.
And also, I was thinking how similar he looks to his son. So we'd just done Platoon, the body type, the voice, the shoulders. It could have been him. When he put the cap on at one point,
Yeah.
I froze and had to check again that I was watching Martin Sheen. I did not realise how similar the two of them were. That's what I was thinking.
It's funny because this is actually supposed to be the start of his journey on, and you know that he's obviously been affected by previous missions or whatever. But I found it not indicative of his PTSD, but indicative of his itching to get on a mission. Right? He's drunk, really, really drunk. Right? And he actually in real life he was drunk during the filming of it. Right? And he's frustrated that he's being stuck in a
He says that
hotel,
I'm getting it.
in a hotel room, right? And yes, you get the sense that he's been horribly affected by it, but that's not actually why he's lashing out. And I'm like,
So why is he lashing out, do you think?
I think he's lashing out because he's stuck in a hotel room.
How long had he been in the hotel room for?
Well, I think
supposed
it
to
was
imply
supposed to
a
have been
while.
days. Yeah, days. And he's not the sort of, you could tell that he was the sort of person that wanted to keep going on his.
I'm not sure. I
You're not
actually agree with. No,
Oh,
I
you think he had PTSD?
Yeah, I think, and he was an alcoholic and a drunk, and yes, he got bored, and
Yeah.
the more he drank, the more all these feelings came back.
Yeah.
And look, whether or not he was meant to play it as intensely as he did, we don't know, because Coppola just let him go, and when he broke his hand, he went, and he was really drunk, and I think Martin Sheen himself was an alcoholic, had his own insecurities about being on a film like this, and could he carry it, and could he do it? And all that just played out. So I tend to think more of the PTSD side of it than bored. Because if he's an assassin, a trained killer, then he's trained to, survive a few days of boredom in a hotel, I think. And I think the alcohol would just...
I think the alcohol and the fact that he was there and that he
why
was...
would he be crying?
Because I think because he had been affected by it all, and he needed to do something. He needed to be active, and if he's just stuck in the hotel room with knowing where he is and what he's doing and drinking, that was really sad for him, because he wasn't able to get past. He wasn't able to get past the issues that he had.
The PTSD.
Yes.
But that's
So
the
it is
trick.
PTSD.
Can I ask you another one to the same theme? Because
Yeah.
I spoke to Peter, the guy I mentioned about this during the week.
Yeah.
You know, when Robert Duvall says, so we know his famous line, which we'll talk about in a minute, but there's another great line that Peter reminded me of when he says, "One day, son, this will all be over." Right?
Yeah.
And what Peter said to me was that Duvall was saying he loved it, enjoy the war, because most people want to get away from it, but Duvall's character wanted to be in it more. I mean, he was fantastic in it.
He was fantastic.
There's bombs and killings and murder, and he's talking about surfing with his top off, and
It's fantastic saying.
that was one of the premiers. Did you take that line as that?
I didn't actually, but now that you say it, I mean, he was. I took it as
Because everyone wants to get away, and he wanted to stay.
I took it that as his moment of giving comfort to his troops, because if you think about it, the rest, all the people around him are like shattered, right?
And
They're
petrified.
scared,
Yeah.
petrified,
Yeah.
and there's bombs going off, and he's standing there with his hat on, and he's barking out instructions,
And his top off.
and his way of being compassionate was just saying, "Come with me now. One day this will all be over." And he did it in a way, you're right, that could be, "I'm strong. I want to
Enjoy it now."
But I think
Peter reckons he's saying, enjoy it.
I agree
What do
with
you
you.
think?
I agree with you again, because he's so deranged. He is the kind of guy who's just lost in the fog of war. He's got his foot up. There's bombs going off around him. It's like Tom Berenger, I think, in Platoon. They're so affected that they're no longer affected.
he thinks he's invincible.
Or the bridge on the River Kwai.
Or the bridge on the River Kwai. He's so affected by it that he's just gone nuts. Enjoy, lads. This is going to be over soon. I love the smell of napalm. I mean, who says that as people are just getting killed left, right, and centre?
You're probably right. It's I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think
That's how Peter said it to me. It was interesting.
I felt that. And what was... there's so much to talk about. And jumping back and forth.
Before we go
So
away
go
from
back.
the first scene.
Go back to the first scene.
Sorry, the hotel scene. Very important. There's a shot a couple of times of the fan, right?
Yeah.
You remember it?
Yep.
Everyone remembers the fan, right? That fan going around, right? And it goes round
Does
and
that come
round.
back at the end? Is that
It doesn't. But that fan, right, is the reminiscent of the helicopter blades.
Oh, here we
Right?
go. Didn't pick
You know, the
that.
helicopter blades. So
Yeah.
these motifs that come through
Oh,
it,
right.
right?
That
you
triggered his thoughts.
That trigger along the way. And there's quite a few of the motifs that happen throughout the
Tell
film.
us a few more. What other ones?
Oh, we'll talk about it later.
okay.
As we go through
That's a
it.
good pickup. Yeah, that's clever.
So it's, you know, these things add to the whole experience of it all.
Yeah,
and they look like helicopter blades. And he did that very deliberately to get a shot of that as a kind of precursor to what's going to go on.
Oh, right.
Well,
That's clever.
For those that don't know, I mean, Coppola filmed, I think, over 3,000 hours worth of footage.
Yeah,
right?
a million feet of film. Yeah.
Just as much as he could get. So he would have filmed everything and anything. Someone got injured, he would film it. So that's why it took, I think, about 3 years to edit the film. So it's important to know that, yes, he filmed that, but he would have had so many decisions to make about how to cut and how to edit this film to make it, you know, flow the way he did.
Well, he didn't know the ending for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
He didn't know how it was going to end. And in fact, you know, even after he'd shot most of it, and the production was,
Total
as I said,
nightmare.
this was a different style of filmmaking.
It's renegade filmmaking, I
It
call
was,
it.
renegade filmmaking. It was part of this was part of a movement in Hollywood where they rejected the studio form of filmmaking. So the studios would come in, they'd have their executive producers, right? They'd have their formula, they'd have their sets, right? They'd have their script, they'd have it all financed, etc., and they'd have final cut and final say. So there was a lot of directors that felt compromised, or visionary filmmakers.
Yeah,
who felt
no
compromised,
freedom.
Compromised in what they wanted to produce, because it was about the dollars, right? It was about the returns, which is fair enough. But that's why you had filmmakers like Spielberg and Ashby and Bogdanovich and Coppola and Scorsese and all of these and George Lucas, who start their own production companies, and he had his own production company for this one, Zoetrope, and they fund it themselves, right? They get wherever the money they can get from.
Well, he'd done The Godfather as
So
well.
he had earned money from the studios, right?
But he'd earned the right. That's what it is. You've got once you've
he
put the
funded
It wasn't even the
funded-
right.
he
It
funded
wasn't
this
even the
himself.
right. It was these filmmakers they wanted to make films that they wanted to make, not films that someone else wanted to make.
Yeah, right.
They didn't want to implement the vision for someone else.
Yeah.
They wanted to implement their own vision. And these days, you get actors that have their own production companies that do that, right?
Yeah.
But it started off back in the late 60s and early 70s. Easy Rider was one of the first ones, where the directors had their own production companies that they set up. And
Dennis Hopper, just on that, Dennis Hopper, very similar character, right?
yeah,
That sort of lefty, hippie,
in this.
easy rider.
yeah.
Didn't you feel that at all?
Yeah, man.
You
Did, man.
Dennis,
Come on,
I did feel. It's funny actually. I thought his character was the only one that didn't quite fit in. He was
a bit out of place.
He was a bit too chipper.
Yeah.
Or a bit too crazy. He was supposed to be crazy. He was a bit too sharp.
Yeah, right.
This film,
They're all a bit dazed.
all about blurring.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
look at the fades in the beginning, right? The use of the fade. A fade is where you fade from one scene to another, right? This is, Rob, you obviously know this, but you fade, and you have lots of fades in this, lots of slow fades, and what that means is you get this kind of sense of transition from sane to insane, transition from truth to fiction, and almost the entire last part of the film, the very end, is all long fades.
Yeah.
Right? You fade from one thing to another thing, and it's like almost like you're in this mist, in this fog,
Yep.
the fog of war.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all that is all part of what he wanted to achieve from this film, and it gives you that sense. That's why, again, you kind of miss these things on little phone.
I didn't think Dennis Hopper. I liked Dennis Hopper's character because he was the quintessential cult member, right? The
spruiking the leader.
spruiking the leader's words,
Yeah.
like crikey, what's the cult that's out there now? The Church of Scientology. You know, you are just.
He was a
brainwashed.
disciple. He was a
a disciple is a perfect word. He was brainwashed into thinking what Kurtz wanted.
That's a fair point.
So that's I didn't mind that manicness that he had, and he stayed there to photograph everything that was going on there. Yeah, why did you said something along the lines of why did Martin Sheen question whether or not he should kill Kurtz. Well, I didn't understand that.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
But no, I know he did, but why?
Because they said the task was
To kill him.
to kill him because he'd gone rogue, he'd gone off script, he's now running these cults.
Which he was.
Well,
hang
on a minute. That's one of the important things to unpack in this film.
That's what I don't understand. Yeah.
Was he a threat? What was he?
No, he wasn't a threat. He'd just gone rogue. He's
so
part
why
of
was the government so interested
Because
in killing him? Because we had some top brass come over. Harrison Ford.
Ford.
In his pre.
Yeah,
by the way,
absolutely.
pre-Star Wars,
Yeah.
even though it got released after Star Wars, he shot this before Star Wars.
Oh, the cast here is unbelievable.
It is, but he's not well known.
I understand, but I was
standpoint.
waiting for Rob to go through the cast to drop.
But hang on. Why is he? Why do they want to
He's
take
deserted.
him out?
He's essentially deserted.
They're putting a lot of resources.
Yeah.
They've got helicopters coming in and clearing areas. They've got a U-boat that gets taken all the way up.
Well, it's all about
Why-
control, isn't it?
Yeah, but so this is the thing that's not explained.
I think they've also sent previous people in to try and kill him because Kurt says, "Are you here to assassinate me too?" I think he says the word "too." So people have gone in before him and not come out, or gone in and stayed, and you can't have that. You can't have someone of the U.S. Army of his stature,
Not
being a
following
cult-
instructions.
cult-
That's
yeah,
right.
being a cult member.
Yeah.
He's gone out of control. He needs to be brought back or killed. I mean, he's not
But it's
coming
not clear.
But it's not clear.
It's
This
not
is why my
clear.
question.
I think they mislead Captain Willard, Martin Sheen,
So you said at the start, why mislead to what?
as to
What's their agenda? Why?
that's
That's the great unknown,
well, this is one of
and that's how you can
if you
interpret. It makes it a
if
good
you
film.
think about the Vietnam War, right, as a whole,
Yeah.
and you think about the opposition to the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
a lot of the American people felt at the time and they
very
felt
opposed to it.
that they were opposed to it, and that it was a war that America should never have been involved with, right? And it was really similar to what happened in Iraq with Saddam Hussein. It was based on a bit of a lie, right?
But what was he misled in?
So
Because everything they said was true.
Well, it was true that. See, they didn't. It was true that he was out there in the jungle, right? But he was in Cambodia. He wasn't in Vietnam anymore. It was true that he had a following, but it wasn't full of U.S. Marines. It was full of the local Cambodian tribes.
And they also implied that he'd lost his marbles.
Yeah.
And
Which
Brando
he
hadn't lost.
had.
He hadn't lost his marbles.
No way. Brando was fully there.
He was one of the only two people that was
Sharp.
absolutely sharp and
100%.
lucid in his vision.
In his vision, yes, but his vision was absurd.
No, his vision didn't match
What the Americans
US
wanted. Yeah.
the US military
He hadn't lost
vision.
his
And
mark.
that's what the problem
He was the original founder of the Church of Scientology with his views. Okay, that's the equivalent thing. He thinks he's 100% right. The head of the Church of Scientology.
No, but they
thinks he's
implied
right.
that he had gone rogue and was killing anyone and everyone. and-
Forget about the killing side of it.
That's why they misled him. That's why they misled him. They misled him into the threat that he posed.
Yeah, but you're saying he was totally sane and the clearest thinker. He's no different to Dennis Hopper. What Dennis Hopper was spouting was the beliefs of Kurtz, which was a rambling nonsense. So I mean, it made sense, but somebody that's manic would write the same thing. So maybe he was manic.
That's the point. The point is, what was true? Was he a delusional madman, or did he have it right?
Well,
And
yes, that's different.
And that's what Martin Sheen was playing with the whole time.
What the US
Yes,
government
that's-
said, what the US, the point was, we can all agree, Brando, Colonel Kurtz, was ideologically at odds with the US government.
Correct.
Whether he was right or not,
Yeah.
the US government made clear to Sheen that he was wrong and that he needed to be taken out and
Okay,
that he
so
posed a
that's-
threat.
and that's why he said-
that was the whole point of the
Well,
public were
Because they
misled.
can't say that. They can't
They
say to
can't.
him,
That's right.
go kill this guy because he doesn't believe what
Believe
we
the same
believe.
thing we
They
believe
have
in.
That's right.
Correct.
They have to say he's gone rogue, he's done this, he's done
Exactly.
that. But really, when he got
Exactly.
there, he thought, nothing wrong with this guy.
Well,
He just,
but the
you like
only
orange
reason-
and they like green.
The only
Exactly.
reason I think he thought that that he might be okay is because he's just gone through these series of mishaps, adventures, trauma to get there. He's seen the madness of war more himself. I even say it in my intro, in a war this mad, who's truly sane? So what maybe Kurtz is saying is actually, it does make sense in a world this crazy with the senseless killings that are going on in the way they were going on. Now, in fairness, the guy's using fucking heads as footballs, and he's dropping the head of his dead his dead friends onto his lap. So he's not in his right mind. Okay, there's no way to think that he's in his right mind.
And this is perfect because you look at what the Americans did in this movie, right? Yeah, they just napalm the forest and whatever it is, and they shoot the hell out of the people on the boat that are just that because they're all on edge and crazy. And part of the point was they're no different. Colonel Kurtz and the American government were no different in a sense. The methods might have been a little bit more unorthodox on the one side, and the ideology behind it might have been a little bit different on the one side. But this was all a film about the horror of war and why the American people were misled about the American role in Vietnam, just like Captain Willard
the most powerful thing
was misled
Correct.
about the reasons why he was going out to get Colonel Kurtz.
The Vietnam War is one of the, if you're an American, the American psyche is one of the great debates of whether they should have been there or not been there. And the way they've done this film is whether Martin Sheen should have done it, should have been there or not.
And when that's
the parallel.
And when he gets there, this is the amazing thing. When he gets there himself, even though he's a trained assassin, he doesn't know whether he should kill him or not. Just like those that have come before him. Because he has gone through this process and he gets there and he realizes maybe Kurtz has got it right. Maybe the government's got it wrong.
But he is also then turned as well. He becomes a follower because he's so he's kept in the bamboo shackles for a while. The head is dropped into him. You think after that happens, he'd kill him immediately, but no. He then spends the next week, month, however long it is, in his company, talking. They always talk. And then eventually Kurtz goes, I know that you're going to kill me at some point, make it quick or whatever it is that he says. But
What triggered the final kill?
Well, he just knew he had to do it and he had to get back home, I think.
Yeah.
And he knew that Kurtz couldn't continue, and he certainly couldn't go back home having not fulfilled
that's how I took
his role.
This is the journey that he goes on. The road. We're talking back to the road movie, right? The journey he goes on. He's sitting in the office at the beginning, and Harrison Ford's telling him, and they're playing him the tape of the recording, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a clear vision in his head. He's sobered up. He's got a clear vision in his head, and you watch as he goes further and further along the journey, how his clarity becomes clouded, until he finally reaches his destination, and his clarity is so clouded that he doesn't know whether or not to complete his but he's a trained soldier, right?
And he followed the mission.
There's this understanding, and it happens, and he becomes the replacement hero, right?
Yep.
They all bow down to him.
Yep.
That's right, when he walks out. And I thought that was a bit, what's the word? I thought contrived. Yep. When he walks out and everyone...
And he's standing there and they're chanting for him.
Yeah.
And he walked through the crowd.
That's why, That's why, as you talked about your 5 out of 5, I was contemplating, is this a 5 out of 5 movie? And it's not a 5 out of 5 movie for these reasons. It's a bit self-indulgent, I think, by Coppola. That scene particularly I didn't like. I think
let's go,
just kind of labour on a bit more.
Let's go because I know we spent a lot of time on the Marlon Brando and the theme. But really, like you said, it's the journey. It's all these episodes and people he meets and engagements that happen along the boat ride.
Well, the first one is when he meets Kilgore, and we've got the helicopter attack, if you remember. How good is that music?
The helicopters, when they come over the horizon, and there's about 40 helicopters, I don't care whether you're watching it on a 70-metre screen or a 1-inch phone, it's incredible how good it looked. And the music... And they play Rolling Stones. I think they're playing the Rolling Stones song.
Well, this is what they obviously the Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner. You guys have talked previously about iconic songs that have gone with films. When there's a bunch of them, obviously.
Yeah.
From Top Gun that you can think of, or
Titanic, as you mentioned.
I've never seen Titanic, so
really,
I refuse to watch it. Yeah.
Why?
What?
Why do you refuse? What's?
I don't know.
How's it offended you?
It's just completely changed my opinion of you as a human.
It's not refuse. It's not refuse. I will watch it one day. It's the epitome.
It's a classroom movie.
It's the epitome of a Hollywood blockbuster. And when it came out, I just didn't.
But you haven't seen it.
But factually, it's very, very interesting.
I didn't know enough. I knew enough about it, and I'd seen enough bits of it to know that
It wasn't for you.
yeah, it wasn't for me. It's one of those
Really?
It's one of those films where I'm proud to say I haven't seen it because the rest of the population has.
Yeah.
Seen it.
I'll tell you what's clever about it in 30
Woman.
seconds.
I love Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman's a great film.
You must just think I'm a ball of mush. I'll tell you what's clever about Titanic. It's based on a true story that actually, they run into an iceberg, but then they wrap it up in this make-believe love story. It keeps, and so you're waxing and waning, but I'm not here to sell it to you.
You love the love story. I love just the history of it. And
Yes.
a lot of the characters in there were real and the real stories.
A couple of people bought tickets to it along the way too. It's more mainstream than you are. That is for
Okay,
sure.
let's get back to
Anyway,
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
So we've got Kilgore, we've got the helicopter
Clinton.
ride, the ride of the Valkyries. Now he's surfing obsessed. This just shows how out of his mind he is. All he
the
talks
Duvall
about,
scene.
is the surfing.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Sheen comes in. He's the focal point of this mission. There's 7 or 8 GIs, including the captain of the boat, that are all risking their lives, and they're sending in the bombers, and they've got all these helicopters to bring him in. And Kilgore couldn't give a shit, right? Couldn't give a shit about Sheen. But as soon as he learns that there's a surfer from San Francisco, from LA,
Yeah, he jumped up.
bang, he's onto it, and it's brilliant. It is such a brilliant scene that also fits perfectly within the theme of the movie, right?
That it's become normal.
That here's the horror of the war, right?
Yes.
And there's people getting bombed, and his men are at risk, right? And this guy is crazy enough to care only about this new private who's been flown over who happens to be a surfer.
Yes.
And he organises literally the battlefield around the surfing, and he tells
Go for a surf,
tells
boys.
his privates to go out.
Yeah.
There's a shot of them longbird surfing
Yeah,
out the
that's
bay.
right.
It's the absurdity of war is so sharply in focus in that film.
And the effect it has and how individually they all take it. I mean, Duvall's take on it, I've never seen in any, like I said at the start, I'm not big into the war films. It's certainly my favourite war movie. And then the famous line, right, it's a good line. I don't know why. Why is it so famous?
He improvised. I'll tell you why.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Why is that such a famous line?
Well, I'll tell you my take on it. So I watched an interview with Coppola and Martin Sheen from 10 years ago. I watched it on YouTube a couple of days ago. And it was like the first time the two of them got together after 40 years. And they were talking about the making of it. And Martin Sheen, to me, felt like he idolized Coppola a little bit. And Coppola was still kind of this kind of bombastic director. And Martin Sheen's recollection of that scene is that he was in awe of Robert Duvall, who'd just come off the back of The Godfather and Network, if you like. And he said that his performance was so captivating. Martin Sheen is shitting himself in the helicopter as they're coming in and landing. There's no safety nets at this point. It's all done, all filmed, all real. He said Duvall just kind of improvised and spoke. And every cast member just followed him in what you see and in the way you see it. He said he was just mesmerizing. And then his presence and the way that he delivered it just had everybody else falling in line. It was, and I think when he delivered that line, because it is such an incredible performance, it just sticks with you. And as you say,
It is incredible.
such a weird backdrop.
It is
of,
incredible.
Yeah, of Stan.
The only problem I had with that scene, and it might be because Martin Sheen was literally, petrified. He did look quite scared in that scene.
Martin Sheen. Very much.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
and I found that out of character. Because this is a guy that the
trained
US
assassin.
government has come in, who's fearless, who's going to go up the river, and I thought at that point, maybe later, maybe after he's gone up the river and he's seen all this, craziness that's happened, up at the bridge, and after they kill all those people on the Vietnamese on the boat, who were just maybe after then, but at that point in time, that should be water off a duck's back to him.
Maybe that's right.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was still a fair. Yeah, you're probably right because he hadn't endured that much yet that we'd seen, but at the same time, there was a fair bit of carnage going around. That was what made it so ludicrous that Robert Duvall could be so relaxed and talking about it with his shirt off. Well, I thought Robert Duvall was a complete nutter.
He was, but I'm thinking, why haven't the US government got Duvall to go up?
Yeah.
No, and that's I think that's a.
Well, you would have to have watched the film twice to have known that because I
No,
hadn't got
after
to
I've
Brando
watched
yet.
it. while I'm watching it.
Why hadn't they gone and picked up Duvall as well? Yeah.
Because of the performances or because of the characters. That's why.
No, but also Duvall is not an assassin. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He's a leader of our truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you needed an assassin for this. He couldn't have done the same thing. And also, Duvall's character had been in multiple tours, let's say, that he's become anaesthetized to the horrors of the war. And he's just kind of immune to it, like we see with Tom Berenger in Platoon and Sean Penn in that Michael J. Fox movie, when they can walk around with the explosions going off as if nothing's happening. Because when you've done your third or fourth tour, you're so shell shocked that unfortunately that happens.
Yeah, it's a great scene. It's not actually my favourite scene in the movie, but it is a great scene. It's definitely the most iconic scene.
Yeah.
And, it's got two of the lines in it that
Get repeated over and over. If you said to someone, what's the famous line in Apocalypse Now?
And that music, you can't listen to that music, and I can't, and have, since I saw that film.
And it took him a year to edit that film, to edit that scene.
Really?
But my favourite scene is actually the scene where the PT boat meets the I've mentioned it a couple of times, it meets the farmers of the...
Is that when they're shooting the wood at them?
Not when they're getting shot the arrows. When they go and they just do a routine check of that.
Yes, yeah.
And with the puppy.
With
Yes.
Do you remember that scene?
Absolutely.
Where, and
why did he start shooting?
Well, I love that scene. It's so horrific. It's by far the most horrific scene in it. In my mind, more so than the heads, which is kind of surrealistic. This is like the real tragedy of war, where this is just a family who have got a dog in a. But the way that he built the tension there, right? The way that you knew that something bad was going to go on, and you're waiting, and you don't quite know what's going to go on or how it's going to go on.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, when they start just firing, when one of them he's so tense, he's so triggered, and the way that you see the sweat coming down on the brows and the close-ups and the long shots and the back and the medium shots, it just builds this tension. I just think it's great filmmaking, and that's why I love that scene so much.
I agree, and the tension is built and the scene makes sense because of all the shit they've just gone through before. Yeah. They are the itchy trigger fingers. They're so anxious that anxiety levels are beyond anything that we as mere humans, normal humans sitting here, can comprehend. That anyone that has gone to war, that walks into a room where you don't know somebody may or may not be, you're shitting yourself. And ultimately that's what happened.
And Captain Willard says to the PT boat owner, to the boat driver, he says,
"Why did you stop?
Don't stop.
Yeah,
don't stop." Right? Because he's seen enough of the shit that goes on that he knows that this is not going to end well. I like that line. And he says, "Keep going, don't stop," and he doesn't. Because they're still green. They're still a little bit too green.
Yes. They are, but then to your point before about Martin Sheen looked scared earlier on.
Yeah.
At the end of the scene, when they'd killed them all.
Yeah.
And you think, I was thinking, right, how's he going to react here? Is he going to say, shit, this is bad, why do we do? No, he's like, okay, move along.
This is the war.
This is war. This is war. Let's keep going. And then he said, we can't leave her. We can't leave her.
Yeah,
and then he shot her, like Rob said.
Which you would expect. That's exactly the right thing to do in his position.
And he was like, move along. At that point, he'd got tougher. At that point.
And this is why...
He wasn't scared, by the way. I think it was he was genuinely scared as a person, as a human being, not as an actor, and that came through.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just...
In the Robert Duvall scene, you're saying.
In the Robert Duvall... This is why the Robert Duvall scene was discordant for me. It didn't match. Because if you look at his transition as a character, as he goes through, and you see that boat scene...
He hardens up.
No, it's not even that he hardens up. He knew what war was like.
Yeah.
He'd seen it all before. He knew this was a mistake. And he knew that if you're going to make a mistake, you finish it off. You kill the person that needs to be killed.
Yeah.
And he knows that if you do that...
Well, he had a task at hand.
And if you do that, you move on.
Yeah.
You don't get a sense of that in the Robert Duvall scene.
No.
You don't get a sense that he's seen it all before. You don't get a sense that this is war. That's why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And it predates that.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
It's out of order. It's not like his personal journey takes you there. If they want you to believe that he's this hardened assassin, have it all the way through. And I reckon it's because they didn't shoot it necessarily in sequence.
Absolutely
Number one.
not.
Number two, he's legitimately scared.
Yep.
So
you think in real life he was scared?
He said he was.
He says he was, right?
You can watch the documentary.
He says he was. And that's a sign that he's not as good an actor.
Yeah, that's
as
bad
he might
acting,
have
isn't
been.
it?
Yeah.
Correct, because he was a green actor. He was new.
But also, we know that he was an alcoholic at the time, so he's having issues. So I know it might have been perfect.
But isn't that bad directing as well?
It's partly bad directing, and this is part of the thing. This is part of the reason why this is such an interesting film.
Yeah.
This film takes years to film. The production is stopped and started. They borrowed the helicopters from the Philippines government, and every now and then,
if we are saying 50 years later that you can pick that his face was genuinely scared, not acting scared.
It's not Pickett.
It's not Pickett.
You're not listening. I watched a documentary where he said...
Even if he's saying it shouldn't have, Francis Ford Coppola said, we need to shoot it again because he can't look scared.
Well, maybe not. And this is the thing. He couldn't... He shot a lot of film.
Yeah.
He did a lot of scenes. There were some things he just couldn't do again and again and again. Like I said, the helicopters, sometimes they would have the helicopters in the morning and the government would say, we need these helicopters.
Yeah.
So see you later. And then to come back weeks later, they had a set built up, the set before they go to Colonel Kurtz's compound.
Right.
That gets destroyed in a typhoon. They have to rebuild it. They have all this stuff and he doesn't shoot it in sequence. And so there are times, right, when Martin Sheen might not have had the vision
of what's going to
be happening. A. B. When Coppola doesn't quite know how it's all going to fit together either.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't know the ending.
Do you understand that? And I'm not being patronising, but I'll tell you why. Because when we talked about doing an end-of-year video, what we're going to do, and Rowan said, well, why don't we just go to the market, to Chapel Street, wherever, and we'll just film, okay? And I was worried about the editing. Because with all that footage, you have to take small snippets out and then stitch them all together like we talked about.
Sure.
And he's doing that with 3,000 hours worth of footage. So to find the right take for that scene, that's why it took so long. I mean, it's an unbelievable piece of filmmaking. Unbelievable. But it has its flaws like we've just talked about.
There are plenty of films that you've reviewed, that you guys have reviewed, where some of the problems that exist in the films, right, because they've had to patch up what was effectively, or through editing, what was effectively not the ideal shot.
Well, what was the American football movie with
Any Given Sunday?
Any Given Sunday with the director who directed Platoon, with Oliver Stone. I mean, I didn't enjoy the film, but the editing of the football scene, it felt like you were actually in there. It's like the movie F1 as well. It was just edited in such a way that it just, you were immersed in it.
Anyway, it's a very interesting film because because it wasn't a conventional way of filming. And still, it's actually not conventional way of filming. But
to me, it felt like the first sort of epic of its time, right? It could have been a film modern day. Like, to me, it didn't seem dated at all, right? This was many cast.
I don't think it's dated at all.
It gets certainly
you
held
watch
my
this
attention
over and over and over again and see something different. And this time I watched it, and there's been 3 cuts. This time I watched it, I'm just watching in the background. And all the stuff that's happening in the background, all the extras, I'm thinking, how the hell did they actually get all this stuff to work?
many people.
So many people. You know, when
The concert scene, when we talk about the pretty girls come out and I'm sitting there thinking, God, look at the cast.
You're thinking, oh, that's great that you're thinking that. And even when the boat is getting to Kurtz's compound and everyone's standing in the water and there's people on the cliffs up there and cliffs up there and the decoration.
It would have taken them hours just to set it up.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it took a long time, and they had to build that. All of the sets that were there, they built, right?
No,
but they built cheap labour. They had cheap labour in the Philippines.
I know you guys don't think that I actually watch the film and see how it's built, right? Because we spoke about this for the first time in Mississippi Burning when Gene Hackman, they're looking for the killers and they go through the river. And I said to you at the time on the show, remember Hackman and they were going through with William Dafoe and they're walking through the water?
Yes.
Remember that in the suit? And you said, I'm really excited that you picked that up and how they did it. I was thinking when they got to the final scene, when they got to Hopper, and they arrived there, and just how long that would have been just before they go, okay, 1, 2, 3, film.
And how many times they would have filmed?
How many times? That was like a Braveheart or a.
It's nuts. 3,000 hours of footage.
I thought you were going to say 3,000 people.
We film for a minute, right, or 2 minutes, and have to stitch that together. I mean, it's nuts. Yeah. It's
very, very, very difficult. After I studied film, I knew, after I'd finished my film degree, I knew that I wasn't the genius that I needed to be in order to be able to make the films that I wanted to make.
I don't know.
I'm
pretty clever fellow.
100%, no doubt. Not saying that for any humble reason.
Yeah.
I was not the genius I needed to be to make the sort of films that I wanted to make, because it honestly, the vision that you need and the execution that you need to work out, right, that in that frame that's going to match with that frame, I need to take this shot with this lighting and these people doing this and this and this. It is the films that I love.
Yeah.
They're geniuses. The people that do it, he is a genius filmmaker.
Yeah.
Right. Coppola's film is genius. Scorsese, genius. Spielberg, genius. These guys are, Christopher Nolan.
20 steps ahead.
PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson. You've got to see One Battle After Another, by the way. It's just
come out actually
crazy.
on Netflix. I'll pay for it. We'll watch it together.
It's crazy. You've got to watch it twice, because the first time I think you come out of it, you just go, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
I'll rent it.
Anyway.
Can you indulge me in something else?
Cameo? How good was the cameo? The filmmaker's cameo.
Who's the film?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see? Do you remember that scene where you see a cameraman, and he says, "Don't look at the camera. Don't look at the camera. Keep going. Keep going." Yeah. That's Coppola filming with his DP, his director of photography, his camera operator, and his set designer, and Martin Sheen's coming. It's at the beach. At the beach scene. At the end of the beach scene.
He shouldn't have done that. That's what I mean by self-indulgent. It removed a little bit of the realness of it. If you know who Coppola is. It takes you out of it for a second.
Kind of, but I love the fact that here they are. Here's Kilgore with his shirt off, wanting to surf. There's bombers coming in, nuking the whole place. There's guns and explosions go off, and there's a film cameraman filming the whole thing for posterity reasons or for documentary purposes or back there.
Yeah, but that was fine.
So that was I love.
Robbie's saying if you want to be immersed in the film,
should have had someone.
Yeah, because it breaks it.
Yeah,
wow.
It kind of breaks that, not the fourth wall as such.
No one would have known it.
I didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
You didn't know, yeah.
No, never a clue, but you did. Obviously, did you know? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it takes you out of the film, then that's a fail.
Yeah, okay, I suppose so, but it's only really for those people that would have known.
The educated eye.
But I think most people know well, maybe
now.
I don't know.
79.
Well, he's already done The Godfather, remember? So he's out there.
The directors weren't like rock stars who were televised on TV all the time. Maybe they were.
They talked in this documentary about how he used most of his money to fund this, and he actually still seemed a bit pissed off when Martin Sheen had his heart attack. He went off set for 6 to 8 weeks, and he had to recuperate. And the studios were like, "You're done, right? We've got to shut this down." So what actually happened was he got his own money to kind of fund it for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And Martin Sheen's brother, Joe, was the same size and build as Martin Sheen. So they managed to film for 6 to 8 weeks using Martin Sheen's brother for things like walking away scenes, or, for his back or side-on profiles.
I could have got Charlie would have been too, yeah.
Charlie was on set as well.
Yeah, right.
And if you listen to this documentary, you hear about some of the interactions that happened, and Brando coming over to Martin Sheen's house at one point. The other thing, just a bit behind the scenes, you talked about Kurtz coming out of the shadows. So Marlon Brando was notoriously difficult to work with. He didn't really want to be there because it was hot and sweaty. He didn't understand the script, didn't understand the vision. So he was eventually just told, like, right, this is where you're going to be. This is the lighting of it. Marlon Brando improvised the popping his face in and out of the shadows to get that shot. Right. It was not planned. Coppola didn't say, "I want you to do this with your face." It was just him being the genius that he is in terms of...
He wasn't well liked. Hopper and him hated each other on set as well.
Did they?
Dennis, yeah.
He's from Superman, Marlon Brando as well. He's Jarrell. Right, just talking Dennis Hopper, I need you to indulge me in something.
Yeah,
right? And I've cleared this with Robbie because we spoke about this. So when the boat arrives with Dennis Hopper and he starts quoting the Rudyard Kipling poem, If. You heard it before?
I've heard of the Rudyard Kipling.
I'm going to read it because half my life's values come from this poem. So for those that don't know, I'm going to read it and then we can talk about it.
Look into the camera, my friend.
Okay, I'm going to rock down the barrel because if you Google this, it's actually ironic because the first time I saw it was with Dennis Hopper. So maybe that's how it came. Okay, Rudyard poem, Rudyard Kipling, If. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for the doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. Here, don't look too good nor talk too wise. if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make up a trap for fools, or watch the things you've give your life to broken and stoop and build them up again with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it in one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart, your nerve and your sinew to serve your thoughts, turn long after they are gone, and so hold them when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can walk with the crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Beautiful, well done.
I don't know if I read it well, but it is unbelievable. I mean,
So tell us why it's so important to you.
my whole life, I normally use sayings quite a lot. My parents have quoted this to me over and over since I was a kid. And then it gets said to me, and then I think about it, right? If I win a match, I always think I'm fantastic. I lose, I think it's the end of the world. And my mother used to say to me, if you can, never make those two triumph and disaster. Don't treat those two imposters, or stay humble. There's so many good values to come from that. Yeah. Have you guys leaned on that?
Absolutely. I've given it to my kids when they were younger to read. I don't think they ever did, but I've read it to them a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, I've shown my son the Dennis Hopper one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful poem.
Walk with kings, walk with kings and never lose the common touch.
How would you compare this to The Deer Hunter?
Moving on.
Deer Hunter is one of my favourite war films of all time as well. Michael Cimino.
What's your take on the end of Deer Hunter? Just quickly.
Oh, the whole thing's brilliant.
No, but in the final scene when Meryl Streep and De Niro are sitting around the table, Rob and I, if you go back and listen to that podcast, we have very conflicting views. You may not remember it. You can come back to us another time.
What was your conflicting views on the end of it?
I can't remember the views. I can't remember the views, but we need to go back and check it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love Deer Hunter. I think in terms of my favourite films on war, that would be up there. Was probably number one or two. Probably number two.
Better than this?
No, not better. It's not better than this.
This is more grand. This is more grand than Deer Hunter.
It still shows the horrors of war, but in a slightly different way.
I like this because I'm a romantic at heart, and I think this is a romantic way of making films, right?
Yeah. Deer Hunter's probably darker because they go down the path with your mate whose voice you love to do.
It's also more Hollywood.
Which one?
Deer Hunter.
A little bit more,
more formulaic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little bit more.
I wouldn't say formulaic, but it's definitely got money behind it. There's no renegade filming in that one.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it was a different way of filmmaking, and it's just so impactful. It really is. I mean, look, you watch the Deer Hunter and you watch the scenes in the POW camp where and you just it is so they're so horrific there. When they're playing Russian roulette, and they're just so affected by it, and you can really feel it.
That's why I felt it was darker when Christopher Walken and De Niro playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, it was pretty dark.
And it's but yeah, I think, I don't know, just on a kind of romantic filmmaking way of looking at things, I just can't go past Apocalypse Now. It's one of it's got flaws. There is no doubt it's got flaws, right? And
it's one of your 17.
There's an element of it that's
probably a
bit of dumb luck in there as well, in ways, right? I mean, he had vision, and he had all these ideas, but there was a lot of improvisation, right? And he took a lot of film, and so that means he had a lot of options. It took a long time to get there, but he had a lot of options in the way he could cut it to get this feel. But the whole thing is genius in its product, right?
Yeah.
That there might have been some luck along the way. Whereas if you look at a Christopher Nolan film, right? Like, whatever it is, Interstellar or Tenet or
there's more sides to it. You don't have the luxury.
That is solid vision, beginning to end, everything fits, has to work.
Story,
blah, blah, blah.
storyboarded out, as we talk about sometimes.
Storyboarded out. Yeah.
Just back on the characters on the boat. Did you think the surfer? He lost his marbles, eh? Genuinely, that he was a great one to watch as well. That he was surfer, relaxed, joined the army, and then by the end he was putting face paint on, sitting in the water. Do you remember all that? Did you watch his? Did you pick that at all?
So if you look at all the characters, apart from the
driver of the boat,
cabal, apart from the cabal from the US government in the beginning, Harrison Ford and the crew, right? Apart from them, who are only in that scene as a kind
They're only in 2 minutes.
You look at them all, right? Every one of them, right? From the hardened assassin who's seen it all, to Colonel Kurtz, who's gone fully rogue.
Yeah.
All of them are affected by it.
Yeah,
right?
that's well. Even the boat driver who said it was his boat, he was calm. He lost the plot, didn't he? He started screaming at one point.
When he realised
Kilgore's already lost the plot, right? Duvall's character. But the younger ones, right?
Yeah.
You can see them immediately losing it, right?
Yeah.
You see the young privates who are just absolutely shit scared, right? You can see it in their trigger, in the sweat. You can see them in the ones that go crazy, right?
Well, just the surfer one was more open and obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That he was painting his face and
But all of them, the captain, the chef, right, the PT boat, and he couldn't make the right decisions at the right times because it was obvious.
Well, he seemed the calmest, the driver of the boat, until then all of a sudden he snapped as well, didn't he?
Well, Platoon, I think, does depiction of specific characters the best and their journey through war, because you see Charlie Sheen, interestingly, Martin's son, at the start of it, this fresh-faced kid that wants to go into war, and then he looks at those that have just come out of their tours looking shell-shocked, and he ends up in that way. And you see that with the rest of his platoon. This is more of an overview of the horrors of...
It's much more subtle here. Right, because in Platoon there's the good guys and the bad guys. Right, Berenger was the bad guy, and he was killing people. Here, you're never sure who the good guy and the bad guy was. Well, certainly you weren't sure that Brando was the bad guy. And that's what we spoke about before.
It's a great point. One of the things that I dislike in films is when you have characters that are more black and white. Right,
that's what Rob talks about. When it's spelt out,
good and bad, and I hate being told what to think and feel. Right, I hate it when I like to
work it out yourself. That's why the two of you are good mates, because that's what Rob talks about all the time.
It's not even work it out yourself. You can. There are ways of saying something and letting the audience know
without spelling it,
spoon feeding them, without hammering the point.
Yeah, right? I love the spoon feed. Right. Yeah,
so the hammering the point, I find that's me being treated like an idiot. Right?
That's why we talk about in Dead Poets Society. You and I have had this conversation that it's so obviously corn and things like that, but I still love it.
Right.
But in Platoon.
So just getting back to Platoon, if you look at this film, right,
this is better than
nothing
Platoon.
Obvious that's good or bad.
100%. It's all characters. Shades of grey in this. Yeah.
And if you look at Platoon, I think the characters are a little bit more, and a lot of Oliver Stone's are kind of like they're less nuanced. Their characters, these characters are more hard at the edges.
Pigeonholed. Berenger was the clear baddie in the other one, and Charlie Sheen is not. And I forgot the other dude that Berenger fights with in Platoon.
Well, these are coming from his own experiences, the director's own experiences in Platoon. So I think it's slightly different. I wouldn't say it's more Hollywood. I would just say that he has directed them to act this in a particular way.
I think it's
based
more
on
Hollywood.
Characters that he has dealt with and seen.
It's less risk averse.
I think
it's more Hollywood.
I think it's more Hollywood.
It's definitely more Hollywood.
I don't think people in general are all inherently
bad
good or bad or whatever. I think people do good things and people do bad things. And when you're talking about good and bad, obviously there's a value judgment there. Some people do things that other people might find bad or abhorrent because they have to, right? Or because of the situation that they're in. And I think I like films where the characters are nuanced.
And you get to make your own interpretation.
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree.
Anyway, so that's why I think this is a better film than
Platoon.
Any other lines that stood out to you? There's a couple that I've picked.
No, go and tell us.
So the horror. The horror.
Yeah.
There was, you're an errand boy sent by grocery clerks to collect a bill.
Yeah.
Charlie don't surf, never get out of the boat. Okay.
Just before we, are you
Well,
going to get
no,
into
I was
trivia?
going to just run through the cast quickly as well. I mean, we're an hour and a half in. It's the
I think-
longest podcast we've
Well, I
ever
think we
done.
should
My social
potentially wrap
battery
it
is
up.
starting to wane.
Robbie's hit the wall.
Couple of things I want to say.
Sure.
Marlon Brando's performance in it wasn't long, but it's actually been subsequently used as a kind of beacon for a number of characters. So in June, Baron Harkonnen, the Stellan
yes.
Skarsgård apparently based his character, or actually Denis Villeneuve, who directed it, based the Baron on Kurtz.
I can see that.
on his performance. Josh Brolin based Thanos on Brando's performance. You can actually, I know you're a big fan, Rowan, of the
In
Marvel
his
film.
voice, you can hear
The way he
that.
sits,
The way he sits, and his contemplate. You know, Thanos is a very contemplative baddie.
Thanos is a deep thinker.
Yep. So obviously,
I can see that.
Can you
actually.
see that?
Yeah, I can.
And you know the scene when Martin Sheen comes out of the water and his face is all and you can see the whites of his eyes, right?
Yep.
Predator.
Yeah.
When Arnold Schwarzenegger comes out when he's faced with the Predator. There's some really amazing references that have been huge, or influences that you can see from this film that have come out.
Yes, I couldn't. Yeah, I 100% agree.
But just before you go to trivia, though, I know we've been going for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
The soundtrack. So Suzy Q, some of the music. I know you played that one before. Some
Well,
of the Stones.
the doors,
has
the
been
end. So
a
the
lot.
end is at the beginning and
Yes.
the end.
Yeah, I
right?
love the
and
Doors.
he was mates with the Doors, I think, Coppola. Now, and you know why the end appears at the beginning?
No.
Because Coppola thought it'd be a good idea to have a song that was about the end at the beginning of the film. That's literally as highbrow as it gets.
God. Okay.
Have the end, and that's how Maverick he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
change the norms. Have the end song at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it does provide a nice bookmark, you know, same as the helicopter blades and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm going to run through the cast quickly and just stop me when something of interest comes up. So, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who we know from The Godfather and Godfather Part 2 and 3, The Conversation, and this one. He basically gambled his entire career and studio on this one film. He did the same with Megalopolis, which has just come out, and I think it's been a bit of a flop. I think he's lost a lot of money in that one. We have, I haven't seen The Conversation. Anyone seen that?
Oh, fantastic film. One of Coppola's early films.
He did Bram Stoker's Dracula, The Outsiders, Peggy Sue Got Married, Tucker, Jack, and Megalopolis. We've got Marlon Brando from The Godfather as well, On the Waterfront, Last Tango in Paris, A Streetcar Named Desire, Martin Sheen,
And Superman.
Badlands, later The West Wing and Wall Street. Duvall was in The Godfather as well. So there's a couple of Brando and Duvall in The Godfather. Tender Mercies Network, which we just watched him in. Hopper in Easy Rider, Blue Velvet, Speed. Laurence Fishburne.
Young Laurence
He was
Fishburne.
14 years old. Said he was 16, but got on there at 14 years old.
Did you recognise him in that? Yeah.
No, I didn't
Oh,
recognise
he's on the boat. Yeah, he's one of the boat.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
You're asking me now. At the time,
Yes.
I always check the cast first.
Yes. Oh, right.
And then I'm trying to work out who he is,
Who he
and then I pause.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
same face. I like Laurence Fishburne.
He's great.
He's in 21. Remember, he's the policeman in 21.
Matrix, obviously,
Yep.
and Blade, and a few others. Yeah.
Few films.
Quite a few. Lots of films.
And then obviously a very young Harrison Ford when he was much more Indiana Jones, Dr. Jones,
Pre Han Solo.
pre-Han Solo.
Yeah, interestingly, we talked about Oliver Stone before, and his Vietnam trilogy, which was Heaven and Earth in 93, Born on the 4th of July in 89, and Platoon in 86. It was narrated, Platoon's narrated by Charlie Sheen, which echoed Martin Sheen's narration in this one, which is also filmed in the Philippines. Look,
Pretty talented family.
Amazing.
Orson Welles was the first one who was going to make a film about Hearts of Darkness, because this is based on the Conrad. What is it? The Conrad. The book. Anyway, Hearts of Darkness is. You've got to watch the documentary about the making of this film. It's a great film on its own. It's called Hearts of Darkness. Anyway, Orson Welles. This was considered by Orson Welles before he actually made Citizen Kane.
Yeah, right.
Widely considered one of the greatest films of all time. And I think George Lucas was originally going to direct this.
He probably had Star Wars at the same time.
By Coppola asked Lucas to do it. This is all part of the new generation of new Hollywood filmmakers.
Score
are all
that
mates.
off the trivia.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Give us the trivia, Robbie.
Yeah, give us the trivia.
Okay, here we go. Let's get into some trivia time. Budget. The original production budget in 79 was around $31 million. The equivalent today is about 200 million Australian dollars. worldwide box office. The original release earned 150 US, which in today's is about $1 billion. So it's $1 billion film.
Okay, but he turned 31 into 150. How did he have 31 million at the time?
Well, he'd made Godfather.
Was that released already?
Yes.
You said before he used his
Godfather.
own money.
Godfather, he did.
Yeah,
he
he
used
did.
a lot of his own money.
They must have.
It actually wasn't the film that nearly sent him bankrupt either. There was another film, I think,
Well,
that
the
nearly
one that's
sent
came out last year, Megalopolis, that's nearly sent him bankrupt.
No, there was another one back in the day. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
sure. Awards. Oscars, 8 nomination wins for Best Cinematography and also Best Sound and lots of others. BAFTA's multiple nominations, including Best Direction and Best Supporting Actor for Duvall, Golden Globes, loads, Palme d'Or.
It won the Palme d'Or,
Cannes.
didn't it? Yeah,
it did.
yeah.
Steve McQueen, not the director.
My money.
It was the first to turn down the role of Captain Willard.
I'm never going to live that down.
James Caan was Coppola's first choice to play Colonel Lucas, and as you mentioned, Orson Welles was offered the role of
Harvey
Kurtz.
Keitel was one of the ones to also be considered for one of the parts, wasn't he? Are you going to tell me that or not?
I'm not sure if I do have that in there.
Okay, Harvey Keitel was there, supposed to be there as well. Anyway, there was all sorts of cast and crew
Never
issues.
correct me.
Never
Harvey
correct.
Keitel was
His
supposed.
I didn't correct him. It was just something that wasn't there.
Never correct me.
Harvey Keitel was supposed to be in this film, but pulled out due to shooting. Originally scheduled for 6 weeks, took 16 months, and it took Francis Ford Coppola nearly 3 years to edit the footage. We've talked about the napalm attack taking 1 year to complete. It was shot in the Philippines and typhoons wrecked sets. The Philippines had no professional film laboratories. The Philippines had no professional film laboratories at the time, meaning the raw camera negatives had to be shipped to the US to be processed. Thus, the entire movie was shot blind. Francis Ford Coppola never saw a shot on film until after returning to California. Normally, you'd shoot a scene, you go back, you watch it. Could not do that. Harrison Ford was allowed to pick his own character's name. He chose G. Lucas to honour George Lucas, who had directed Ford in American Graffiti before Star Wars. Robert Duvall's iconic Oscar-nominated performance as Colonel Kilgore amounts to just 11 minutes of screen times, and we've talked about the shortest Academy Award winners before. Network was another one. An early scene where Captain Willard is alone in his hotel room was completely unscripted, which we've talked about before. He punched the mirror, which was real glass, cutting his thumb. He also began crying and sobbing. The crew was so disturbed that they wanted to stop shooting, but Sheen wanted to keep the cameras going. He was fighting his own drinking problem at the time. Brando, who was overweight, unprepared for this role, was the movie was reshaped around him basically to suit his new look. Coppola mortgaged his house, and The Godfather profits. Constant fear of total ruin. There are 3 cuts: the theatrical cut in 1979, the Redux in 2001, and a final cut in 2019. Dennis Hopper's death scene was cut out of the film. It appears in the bootlegged work print. And finally, I can see that Rowan's fading. Francis Ford Coppola went to UCLA Film School with all the members of the Doors, including Jim Morrison, who agreed to let Coppola use the master recordings of their music for his Vietnam film. The 5.5-hour early assembly cut of the movie was scored entirely using songs by the Doors before an actual score was created.
By 2 members of Grateful Dead.
There you go. That's it, boys. Let's wrap it up and give us a rating, Simon. We shall start with you.
Oh, I already gave it a rating.
No, I want you to.
He's already given
I
you
want
his
you to
rating.
give it to us again and see if anything we've talked about has changed it.
I'm gonna stick with my 5 stars.
Okay.
I think it is. It's not a flawless film, but I don't think it needs to be a flawless film to be 5 stars. And I take some comfort in the fact that of the 950,000 people that have watched this film and rated it on the Letterboxd app, 341,000 of them have given it 5 stars.
Really?
So there you go. It's got a very, very, very high rating.
That doesn't mean they're right, Simon.
It doesn't mean they're right.
That's more mainstream for
But
you.
can
I
just
wouldn't have
say-
thought. You can't swing.
Can I say when the highest bar, right, of the ratings is in the 5-star more than any other, there's got to be a reason for that. So
yeah,
I'm
I
sticking
agree.
with it, and I'm not saying because I'm following the sheep.
You're following the masses.
I said it before. and I'll
Would you
say
like
it again.
to do the honours?
What? Oh yes, Ron. What about What about you? What did you think?
We're going to play handball. I reckon for me, it's probably about a 3.5 out of 5. Okay, it's probably the highest I've given a war movie. I enjoyed it, engrossed. It's certainly a great conversation we've just had.
Fantastic conversation.
It's taken him 3 years to edit it. It's probably taken us 3 years to build this podcast. It's our record length podcast. It doesn't move me like it does you guys, but I certainly could appreciate the volume of work into it.
For sure. Look,
Rob, what did you think?
Oh, thank you
And
for
Robert,
asking.
what did you
Thank
think?
you both of you finally for remembering that
We
I'm
don't
here.
care, but we're going to ask you.
Look, it's stunning,
And
deeply
thanks.
unsettling experience. Parts are indulgent, but as a portrait of war, it's unmatched. Every scene is a smorgasbord for the eyes. You don't watch it for tidy answers I've written. You watch it to sit in discomfort. This is a 4.95 out of 5.
What
I couldn't
a
give it
silly score.
the five.
No, that's good. That's
I
a good
just
score. I like
couldn't
it.
give it because of these couple of parts that were just not quite
But
right.
why'd you give it 4.95?
Because it's as high as I could go with it, obviously giving it the 5 because of these two parts.
the self-indulgence, the Francis Ford Coppola, you pulled that down. The self-indulgence, you pulled that down.
What? The bit just at the end when he comes out after killing Kurtz and they're all fawning up to him as if he's the new cult leader. I didn't like that bit. And there was a couple of other parts as well. So apart from that bit, brilliant. I mean, it's a must-watch for anyone. You can get it on Stan, Amazon, Apple, lots of different places.
Stream it on your TV. not
Stream
your
it
phone.
on
Stream it on your TV. I think that's a good lesson
And
for the young players.
And you can watch this now. This podcast will be up on YouTube. I think it's actually going to be one of our first up on YouTube before it goes up before the end of season 1. But we'll see. We'll work that out. My podcast partner host here can work out how to edit. And all he has to do,
Robbie.
unlike Francis Ford Coppola, is trim the start and trim the end. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I hope you both have a great week. Simon, thank you
Thank you
again.
very much.
Honestly, we wouldn't have got an hour out of chatting
An hour
about this.
would have been 25 minutes. I
Okay.
can tell you.
The insights you bring to these podcasts that you do with us are fascinating. Thank you very much.
that's very-
You make me want to be a better podcaster.
Yeah, I would agree. You are outstanding. You really are a very intelligent fella. You remind me of a mate of mine. He's a lawyer as well, highly articulate.
I thought you were talking about me.
No, I said a mate. Simon, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for
Welcome.
having me.
You've already booked yourself on again, so
that's very sweet.
we don't need to ask
I
you.
love the show. You guys do such a great job. So
Let's get out of here.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time.